let's ask our favorite redhead about one of those other redheads now. It is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor, coming to us live from the Wells Fargo Center. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Black Friday, Charlie. Thoughts on the game and any standout comments from the post-game availability?
Yeah, I think my thoughts on the game are this is the best version of the Flyers that we've yet seen this season. And I think it's noteworthy that really 2 of the 3 games they've played this week, they've played really well. Like the Vegas game, I thought they played very well. Yes, they give up a bunch of goals, whatever. But overall, they played a good game. They controlled the play. They had the puck a lot. They checked well. They checked forward. Then the Nashville game was kind of a mess. They obviously somehow get the win. They play good defense, but they really didn't do much of anything with the puck the entire game. So that was a step back. This game was like the Vegas game on steroids. It was that, but better. And it does make you wonder if they are starting to finally figure it out and start to look like the team that we were hoping they were going to be from the start of the season. And, some of it is just the fact that, I think when I had that one show with you guys, I think it was maybe like 3 weeks into the year, and I said that there were 3 things in particular that the Flyers didn't have at the start of the year, but they had over the first 2/3 of the season last year when they were good. And those 3 things were the good version of Sean Couturier, Sean Walker, and goaltending. Okay, Sean Couturier now has 5 points. I believe it's 5 points in his last 4 games. He's back to scoring at a completely acceptable rate. He's driving play. They're now, again, getting the Sean Couturier from the first 2/3 of last year. So that's done. Emil Andre is doing his best impression of Sean Walker. He's solidified the second pair. So that's not a problem anymore. And the goaltending has been fine. Ivan Fedotov, Alexei Kolosov, they've been fine. And this is even without Sam Ersson, who I think we all agree is their best goalie. So the things that were holding them back to start in the year, the first, 3-4 weeks of the season, Couturier, the second pair, and the goaltending, all those things have been resolved. And now suddenly they're playing like the team, at least 2 out of the 3 games this week. They're playing like the team that they were the first 2/3 of last season. And that's exciting. Now, as for what I heard from Tortorella, Tortorella came away satisfied. He obviously pointed out the Nashville game wasn't very good, but he does feel like, they're playing well in the neutral zone again. They're surfing up, which is kind of his way of saying that the defensemen are sort of, sucking the life out of the attempts to move up ice. They're playing aggressive. They're cutting off passes, cutting off routes, things like that. But also they're checking really well. The forechecking is good. So Tortorella's happy. He specifically pointed out Bobby Brink, loved Bobby Brink's game. He had a nice little quote about the goalies because somebody, I think it was Adam Killman from NHL.com, mentioned about Kim Dillabaugh, the goalie coach. Is Kim Dillabaugh deserve a lot of credit for the fact that Fedotov in particular, but also Kolosov to a degree, seems to be getting steadier and better as the year goes on. And Tortorella basically said, look, I'm the first one to piss and moan at Kim when our goaltending is bad. He has a tough job. He's a tough job because he's a goalie coach in Philly, and he's the goalie coach for me. And the fact that he's doing as well as he's doing and the goalies are doing as well as they're doing really speaks to Kim Dillabaugh and how good of a goalie coach he is. But Tortorella's happy. I'm happy. This is the closest I've seen the Flyers look to being that team that impressed us so much in the first 2/3 of the season last year. And if Couturier can hold up, if Andre is legit, and if the goaltending stays stable, maybe this is the Flyers the rest of the way. And that's a bubble playoff team, and that's exciting.
It is. You mentioned, it's not only like Kim Dillabaugh, Philly, John Tortorella. Also, the 2 goalies he's got right now are rookies adjusting to North America for the first time, which we're finding out is the hardest thing in the world for goaltending to do. Fedotov was genuinely good today. Even in the first period, I was saying to Hinkle, the Rangers only had 4 shots. I think 3 of them were scoring chances. Yeah. He had to be sharp, and sometimes we hear, goalies want to see the puck. We talked about Shesterkin. I think the Flyers kind of pouring it on early may have helped work him into a rhythm, and Fedotov not really afforded that. I was really, really impressed with him. How do you think he has adjusted over these last couple of weeks?
I think he's been perfectly solid. I thought the two biggest saves he made in this game were at the end of the first period. He makes a big save on Brett Berard right in front, and then he makes arguably an even bigger save on Lafreniere. I believe it was on an odd man rush. Right at the end of the first period, Flyers had dominated the first 17 minutes of that period. They were by far the better team. Rangers barely looked like they should have been on the same ice surface as the Flyers. If they get one of those two goals and they can go into first intermission as bad as they played, down only 2-1, they might come out in the second period and just blow the doors off the Flyers and be like, well, we're right in this. Boom. Now, obviously, they get the one goal in the second, so they do cut it to one eventually. But I just feel like it's a totally different game if Fedotov doesn't make both of those saves. I don't think Fedotov has been incredible. I don't think he's been, a high-end elite goalie or anything, but he's clearly way better than he looked in those first three games when he didn't look like an NHL caliber goalie. And the fact that this is a running theme through a lot of the questions that were asked, I suspect a lot of people are going to be writing this type of column after this game, is just the idea of the fact that the Flyers are doing this, that they're playing well, they're winning more games, they're above Hockey 500 for the first time since the first game of the year, and they're doing it without Sam Ersson. That's impressive. It is, and it's impressive because it implies the team has stepped up, and I think they have, especially in two of the three games this week, first the Vegas game and then this one, where it looks like they're honestly structurally playing better. But also it speaks to the fact the goalies have stepped up. Fedotov was still playing the way he was in the first three games. It wouldn't matter if the structure was better. He couldn't stop a beach ball. If Kolosov wasn't providing half decent, relief appearances when he has to step in certain times, when you want to give Fedotov a day off, when you want to see what you got in Kolosov looks like a perfectly decent backup NHL goalie. And that's enough. That's enough not for them to win every game, not for them to be a dominant team, but for them to be competitive and for them to win more games than they're losing. And that's what's going on right now.
Charlie, Travis Konecny is, I feel like, ascending to an even better level this season, at least in terms of offensive production. Now with 13 goals in the season, he's in the top 10. Only 7 guys have more goals than he does. He's on pace for over 44. Where would this team be without TK right now?
Well, they certainly wouldn't be above Hockey 500, I can tell you that.
They would never score.
Yeah. Look, I think there's a lot of gambles that the Flyers made, in terms of like, well, we're going to trust that the young guys are going to take steps forward. So far, that hasn't worked. Yeah. One calculated wager that they made in terms of deciding to sign back Travis Konecny versus trading him was, if we get him more talent around him, particularly on the power play, this might be an overpay if he's only a, 75-point guy. I know some people are, he's only 60 points. Like, yeah, he's basically point per game. But if he's only 75, but I think part of the Flyers' idea was, if he's on a team with some help, he's probably a 90-point guy, a 40-goal, 90-point guy. Well, so far, he looks like a 40-goal, 90-point guy, and I think the big part of that is just the fact that suddenly the Flyers have a power play. It's not an amazing power play, but it's a functional power play. He's got 5 power play goals. Like, looking at his numbers, so he has 5 power play goals and 2 power play assists in 23 games. Last year, he had 4 power play goals all year. Okay, yeah. Like, that's the difference. He's just as good as he's always been at 5-on-5. It's just that finally they're getting something out of him on the power play. And I don't think it's because he miraculously got better on the power play. It's just because now the Flyers have Michkov on the power play, so they can do more. So I think a lot of his jump, and I don't want to take anything away from Konecny. I think Konecny is a really good player. My point is that he was always a really good player. He was a really good player whose numbers were deflated by the fact that he didn't have a lot of help around him in terms of offensive support. Now he's got more support, namely in the form of Michkov on the power play, and suddenly his numbers are looking like what they would have had to look like for more people to have been okay with that contract. Now they're looking like that, so now it's a lot easier to be like, yeah, I understand why they signed him that deal, because their wager was that if you give him more help, he's going to score more, and that's exactly what's happening.
Owen Tippett led the team in power play goals last year, 5.
Yeah. 5. There we go.
He has it at the 24 game mark, 23
He might have
mark.
5 goals this entire season this year.
Charlie, I got to ask about Matvei Michkov. He didn't play a ton in the third period. I think I've noticed a little pattern with his production. A lot of his better games have come with more than one day in between games. Do you just think, and like, it's not really a criticism, just kind of an observation. He's 19. He's adjusting to so many different things right now. But do you think maybe he's just getting a little worn down by this schedule and how physical teams are being with him?
Well, so do I think that that's playing a role in his season? Yeah, probably, because it's a new beast. The NHL is a new beast. It's a bigger league. It's a faster league. They play more games. Yeah, I'm sure there are times that Michkov is getting worn down. That said, you threw a lot at me there, so I'm going to have to break it down in individual things. Your first thing was he didn't play that much in the third. I thought Michkov had a pretty good game. But what I think the problem was I think his line was bad. John Tortorella straight up said after the game, he said 3 out of the 4 lines were good. He didn't specify, but Cate's line was great. Couturier line I thought was good. And he specifically said the Paling line he liked. So that leaves the Frost, Tippett, Michkov line. They barely played in the final 10 minutes of the third period. And for me, I thought Tippett was bad in this game. Yes. And I thought Frost just wasn't impactful. Like, obviously he was really good the last game. I just thought he was really good the last game, and he was fine against Vegas. I thought tonight Frost just wasn't impactful. He didn't pop. So I think the reason why Michkov got his minutes pulled back was less ripping him. It was less him getting benched, and it was more just like, well, we got 4 lines. 3 of them look good to Tort's eyes. 1 looks bad, so I guess I'm going to roll with those 3 lines. Like, I don't think this was punitive. I just think that his line wasn't very good, and I think the reason why it wasn't very good wasn't his fault, because he made some good plays. He had that one ridiculous pass to Forrester where the first one kind of gets blocked, and because he's a hockey genius, he just immediately realized, oh, no, I can just do a drop pass to the guy right behind me. Like, he made plays. I thought he did good things in this game, but I thought his line mates, particularly Owen Tippett, did not do good things in this game. And I think as a result, he kind of maybe just was the unfortunate cost of his line mates not playing well. Then Torch just like, well, just bench the whole line and go with the 3 lines that are working.
Neither Michkov nor Frost had a shot attempt in the game. Not great from dudes you depend on offense from.
But again, I don't think Michkov was bad. I think there's a much stronger case that Frost and Tippett were bad than Michkov. Yes. This is my opinion.
I agree.
All right, getting back to some good stuff, Chuck. Bobby Brink was all over the ice in this game. I think we've kind of always been big fans of Bobby Brink around here, but it's kind of like, I think, still up in the air as to what kind of player he's ultimately going to end up being. When you see him play a game like he played today, getting chances, flying all over the ice, what does that make you think this Denver product's going to end up being?
Well, I think he's an NHL player, to be sure. And I think he's going to be a quality depth scorer. Now, whether that is, a guy who pops in 40 points every year and can boost a second power play unit, or whether that's Jonathan Marchessault, I don't know. But I think that's kind of where he is. And it might take him a little longer to get to where he's ultimately going to be, because he doesn't have the physical tools of, not even, I'm going to say Michkov, but like of an Owen Tippett. Like, Owen Tippett can not have all the details of his game be great and still score a bunch because he's just bigger and faster than basically everybody he's up against. Bobby Brink's 5'8", and he's not an amazing skater. So he's going to have to fine-tune all of the other aspects of his game if he wants to take advantage of the fact that he's got legitimately really good hands and he's got a high hockey IQ, especially offensively. Like, those are strengths. And I think eventually he's going to get to the point where those strengths allow him to be a pretty solid offensive contributor consistently, whether it's on the Flyers or somewhere else, I don't know. But I think he's going to be a solid NHL offensive contributor, on the wing, but it might take some time. Today, though, we saw why. And what we saw is a guy who does have the skill. He obviously gets a goal. He was productive all around, but he was just playing harder. He was harder along the boards. He's not a big guy. He's never going to be throwing big hits, but he was winning battles. He was engaging along the boards. He was back checking well. Those are the things that he needs to do consistently if he wants to take advantage of the offensive gifts he has, which are the hands and the hockey IQ.
And you seem to really key in on Noah Cates' game today. What did you like so much from him?
Yeah, I thought he was fantastic. I thought there was one shift where he had like 3 consecutive forechecks where he stole the puck, and it was just him. It wasn't anybody else. It was basically he was chasing guys down. He looked fast. He is not a very fast skater, NHL-wise. He looked legitimately fast in this game. He was chasing guys down. I just thought Cates was playing with a ton of jump. I loved his game, although that was the Flyers' best line. And even though he doesn't get any points in the game, I thought Cates was the engine that drove that line, honestly.
All right, last one before stars, Chuck. Joel Farabee, 16 shots in his last 4 games. Will he ever score again?
I'm speechless when it comes to Farabee because he should. He's producing enough quality chances both for himself and his line mates that he should be on the scoreboard. He should be on the scoreboard in not just one game, but multiple games. He's been around the puck. He's been creating. And the thing, and I actually have this in the column I'm writing on tonight's game, or today's game, I guess, is that it's not – there are some guys, let me put it this way. There are some guys where when they're not finishing, you can just say, well, they're not good finishers. And this is just part of the thing. He's just not that great of a finisher. Joel Farabee, I know that like social media wants to act like he can't finish on chances. He can't finish on chances right now, obviously. Historically, if you look at his NHL career, he's consistently been an above average finisher. He almost always has a shooting percentage over 10%. He almost always has boosted the shooting percentages of his teammates. Like, this is a career-long thing for Joel Farabee. He is not a guy who struggles to finish. He's just a guy who's struggling to finish right now, which tells me that at some point the floodgates are probably going to open up for him, because this isn't like a Carl Hagelin, where it's like, yeah, he creates a ton of chances, but he shoots 7%, even though he gets breakaways every game. Like, that's a guy where you can just say, well, maybe he just doesn't have the finishing ability. Joel Farabee has shown us for multiple years that he has the finishing ability. He's just not finishing now. So I have to believe, based on what I've evaluated from him over a large sample size, not a small sample size, but a large sample size, that eventually he's going to start finishing. It's just right now he's not, and it's crazy because of how many quality scoring chances he's creating.
All right, Chuck, hit us with those 3 stars, starting with star number 3.
Yeah, star number 3, I'm going to go with Noah Cates. I know he didn't get on the board. I know he didn't score any points. I thought he was one of the best players on the ice in this game. Yeah, looking at his underlying metrics, he led all Philadelphia Flyers players with an 86.42 expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. I thought he was the engine that drove the Flyers' best line. Flyers outshot the Rangers 14-4 with him on the ice at 5-on-5. Cates was great, and again, I know he didn't score, but to my eye test, he was one of the most effective players on the ice. I can't put him any higher than 3rd because he didn't produce any points, but I can get him my 3 stars because I thought he was great. Noah Cates, 3rd star.
Hit us with star number 2.
Star number 2, Bobby Brink. Bobby Brink got the call out from John Tortorella after the game, said he thought it was one of his best games, and I agree. Brink was great. Obviously gets the goal. The goal I thought was actually more a Forrester play than a Brink play. Forrester had a fantastic sequence in the lead up to that goal, but hey, somebody's got to finish it, and Bobby Brink did. But the big thing for me is that it wasn't just that goal. Bobby Brink was giving quality shift after quality shift in this game. He didn't rest on his laurels just because he scored early. He kept pushing. Kept producing good shifts. And overall, I thought it was, maybe his best game of the season, probably his best game of the season, probably one of the better games I've seen him play all around. We're talking about all 3 zones. Bobby Brink, a slam dunk, 2nd star of the game.
Before the 1st star, I'd just like to say we appreciate those of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show. And more of the show is going to be Charlie O'Connor's 1st star of the game.
Yeah, 1st star of the game is one Travis Konecny. As you said, Konecny, it's hard to fathom where this team would be this season without him. And I've made the point, I think I made the point in our, either it was our last post game or the post game before, one of the post games this week, that I think Konecny is playing through something. He got banged up, I believe, in last Wednesday's game. Then they had off on Thursday. Friday, they practiced again, but he didn't practice. And whenever a guy misses a practice after an off day, you always operate under the assumption there's something going on. Basically, since like the 3rd or 4th game of the year, Konecny's been late to the post-game interviews whenever we request them. Like, that's the reason why I'm a little late, because we had to wait for Konecny. And the reasoning has been he's getting treatment. He's been getting treatment after basically every game since like the 4th game of the year. I think he's playing through something, and to be playing this well, despite the fact that I have a hunch he's not playing 100%, like, that speaks to not just how good of a player he is, but just the drive that he has. Like, at the very least, I think he's banged up from something from last week, but this is a guy who he's the best player on the team. He knows he has to be the best player on the team, and he's getting it done on a nightly basis. And tonight was no exception, and for that reason, he's my first star of the game.
Oh, Canada. All right, Charlie, you will be in studio tomorrow for pre and post game, so that'll be
Indeed.
a lot of fun. Yay. Make sure everyone tunes in for that. Until then, thanks a lot, Charlie. Enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Bye, Charlie.
All right. Yep. Thanks, guys.
We all silly like the mayor.